What if the world of Pokémon really existed? A scene we dreamed of as children, where humans and Pokémon live side by side. Journeying across hidden frontiers of the world, encountering Pokémon yet unknown, it would surely be a world where not just dreams, but hope itself is alive.
Bangiras is Pokémon number 248 in the National Pokédex. If you walk while making the ground rumble, even large mountains will collapse and the surrounding terrain will change. Alola Raichu is Pokémon number 26 in the National Pokédex. It is believed that the climate, environment, and food of the Alola region are the reasons why it evolves into this form. Doditos is Pokémon number 389 in the National Pokédex. A magnificent man with a large body and unparalleled strength, he travels through the mountains and fields in search of pure water. Kojondo is Pokémon number 620 in the National Pokédex. It uses the hair on its arms like a whip. Its attacks are blindingly fast. Ononokis is Pokémon number 612 in the National Pokédex. They boast sturdy large tusks. To maintain their strength, they lick the soil to replenish minerals. Pachina is Pokémon number 261 in the National Pokédex. A Pokémon with a persistent nature. It will chase its prey until it is completely exhausted. Flygon is Pokémon number 330 in the National Pokédex. It hides by flapping its wings and kicking up desert sand, and its red wings protect its eyes from the sand. Suicune is Pokémon number 245 in the National Pokédex. It travels around the world, purifying polluted waters. It flies away with the north wind. Zangoose is Pokémon number 335 in the National Pokédex. It normally moves around on all four legs, but when it gets angry it stands on its hind legs and protrudes the claws of its front legs. Iwik is Pokémon number 95 in the National Pokédex. As they burrow underground, they absorb various hard substances and build strong bodies. Akamo is Pokémon number 255 in the National Pokédex. It has a fire burning inside its body, so it's very warm and cozy when you hug it. Its entire body is covered in fluffy feathers. Kinigasa is Pokémon number 286 in the National Pokédex. The seeds on its tail are made of poisonous spores. It defeats its enemies with punches so fast they are invisible. Kamex is the number 9 Pokémon in the National Pokédex. The jets of water that shoot out from the rocket cannons on its shell can even pierce thick steel plates. Rayquaza is Pokémon number 384 in the National Pokédex. They live in the ozone layer, far above the clouds, and cannot be seen from the ground. Trimine is Pokémon number 676 in the National Pokédex. There was a time when aristocrats competed to see who could cut their body hair most beautifully. Yorinozuku is Pokémon number 164 in the National Pokédex. With their excellent eyes that can see even in the faintest of light and soft, silent wings, they never let their prey escape in the dark. Gekuga is Pokémon number 658 in the National Pokédex. Appearing suddenly like a ninja, he toyed with his enemies with quick movements and cut them down with water shuriken. Golug is Pokémon number 623 in the National Pokédex. Created by ancient people to protect Pokémon and people, it runs on a mysterious energy. Onvan is Pokémon number 715 in the National Pokédex. It flies through the dark, moonless night and attacks unsuspecting prey. Xerneas is Pokémon number 716 in the National Pokédex. It is said that when the horns on its head shine in 7 colors, it will grant eternal life. Nagatukasaru is Pokémon number 766 in the National Pokédex. They use saliva to stick leaves to their shoulders to mark them. The placement of the leaves tells you which flock they belong to. Coil is Pokémon number 81 in the National Pokédex. The electromagnetic waves emitted from the units on the left and right blocks gravity and floats in the sky. Booster is Pokémon number 136 in the National Pokédex. It has a flame sac inside its body and after taking a deep breath, it spits out 1700-degree fire. Arbok is the number 24 Pokémon in the National Pokédex. It intimidates its enemies with the pattern on its stomach, and when the enemy is frightened and unable to move, it strangles them with its body. Yu is Pokémon number 845 in the National Pokédex. They have the habit of swallowing anything whole. Individuals that choke on prey that is too large are the most formidable. Fushigibana is the number 3 Pokémon in the National Pokédex. The large nose on its back can absorb sunlight and convert it into energy. Gilgard is Pokémon number 681 in the National Pokédex. It has been carried by successive kings. It uses its spiritual power to manipulate the minds of people and Pokémon and make them obey it. Granbulu is Pokémon number 210 in the National Pokédex. The carpet, woven with bouncy wool, is like a trampoline, and when you step on it, you bounce up and down. Waninoko is Pokémon number 158 in the National Pokédex. Their powerful, developed jaws can chew up anything, so even their parent trainers need to be careful. Tetsunobujin is Pokémon No 1006 in the National Pokédex. It has some characteristics similar to the mad scientist inventions I read about in an occult magazine. Brachy is Pokémon number 197 in the National Pokédex. When the vibrations of the moon hit your body, the ring pattern will glow faintly and you will awaken to a mysterious power. Boscadora is Pokémon number 306 in the National Pokédex. It uses its steel horns to break down hard rock and dig tunnels in search of iron for food. Fudan is Pokémon number 65 in the National Pokédex. Brain cells are constantly dividing and multiplying until they die, allowing us to remember everything. Sutaja is Pokémon number 495 in the National Pokédex. They are highly intelligent and very calm. They become more alert when exposed to plenty of sunlight. Frieza is Pokémon number 144 in the National Pokédex. They have the power to freely manipulate ice and are said to live in snowy mountains of permafrost. Lizardo is the number 5 Pokémon in the National Pokédex. It has a fierce personality, swinging its flaming tail and slicing opponents to pieces with its sharp claws. Zeraora is Pokémon number 807 in the National Pokédex. It runs at speeds comparable to lightning and rips its enemies to shreds with its claws that emit high voltages. Kapu Tetafu is Pokémon number 786 in the National Pokédex. Although they are called guardian deities, they are also innocent and cruel beings, and can be said to be the embodiment of nature. Lagarugan is Pokémon number 745 in the National Pokédex. Bathed in the setting sun, it has undergone a special evolution. It is quiet, but hides a fierce fighting spirit. Caterpie is the number 10 Pokémon in the National Pokédex. If you touch the antennae on the tip of its head, it will release a strong smell to protect itself. Absol is Pokémon number 359 in the National Pokédex. They have the power to catch natural disasters. They live in rugged mountainous areas and rarely come down to the foot of the mountains. Zuragu is Pokémon number 559 in the National Pokédex. It pulls its skin up to its neck in a defensive position. Its elasticity, like rubber, reduces damage. Manula is Pokémon number 461 in the National Pokédex. It uses its sharp claws to carve mysterious patterns into the surfaces of trees and ice, sending signals to its allies. Ringama is Pokémon number 217 in the National Pokédex. They use their claws to leave scars on the trees in their territory that bear tasty nuts and fruit. Nidorino is Pokémon number 33 in the National Pokédex. The toxin in the horns on its head seeps out when it is stabbed. Bachuru is Pokémon in the National Pokédex. It attaches itself to large Pokémon, absorbs static electricity, and stores it in its energy pouch. Lunatone is Pokémon number 337 in the National Pokédex. There is a theory that it is a Pokémon that came from outer space because it was discovered at the site of a meteorite fall, but this has not yet been proven. Dialga is Pokémon number 483 in the National Pokédex. Dialga is a legendary Pokémon whose birth is said to have caused time to begin moving again. Cubone is the number 38 Pokémon in the National Pokédex. Its bright red eyes emit a mysterious light and it can freely control the minds of its opponents. It is said to live for 1,000 years. Parshin is Pokémon number 91 in the National Pokédex. Parshin lives in oceans with strong tidal currents, and the spikes on its shell are large and sharp. Kentauros is Pokémon number 128 in the National Pokédex. When it targets its prey, it charges straight at it, smacking its body with its tail. Cernite is Pokémon number 282 in the National Pokédex. To protect its trainer, it will use all of its psychic power to create a small black hole. Latias is Pokémon number 380 in the National Pokédex. They are highly sensitive to human emotions. If they sense hostility, they will ruffle all their feathers and cry ferociously to intimidate. Kabutops is Pokémon number 141 in the National Pokédex. When moving through the water, it folds its limbs tightly and wiggles its shell to swim quickly. Tarapal is Pokémon number 842 in the National Pokédex. It evolves by eating sweet apples. Its body gives off a sweet smell that attracts insect Pokémon to feed on. Garagara is Pokémon number 105 in the National Pokédex. He freely uses the bones he has always had since birth. He has a ferocious personality. Bakfun is Pokémon number 157 in the National Pokédex. When his rage is at its peak, he becomes so hot that anything he touches instantly bursts into flames. Alolan Rockin is Pokémon number 37 in the National Pokédex. They live in groups, helping each other. They freeze their prey with their breath at -50 degrees Celsius before eating it. Arceus is Pokémon number 567 in the National Pokédex. It is better at running than flying, and flapping its wings into the sky at a speed of 40 km per hour. Tattoo is Pokémon number 116 in the National Pokédex. It lives in oceans with calm currents. When attacked, it spits out jet black ink and takes the opportunity to escape. Persian is Pokémon number 53 in the National Pokédex. A proud Pokémon, the size of the jewel on its forehead is a hot topic among its enthusiasts. Zygarde is Pokémon number 718 in the National Pokédex. This is the form when 50% of the cells have been gathered. He will annihilate any opponents without any mercy. Nidorina is the number 30 Pokémon in the National Pokédex. Being a female, she is usually gentle, but when she gets angry she will bite, scratch and become violent. Fushigadane is Pokémon number 1 in the National Pokédex. For a while after they are born, they grow big by getting nutrients from the seed on their back. Mewtwo is Pokémon number 150 in the National Pokédex. It was born after one scientist spent years conducting terrifying genetic research. Pachil is Pokémon number 327 in the National Pokédex. It is said that no two spotted creatures are alike. Their dizziness and unsteady movements have the effect of confusing their enemies. Airview is Pokémon number 133 in the National Pokédex. It has the potential for many evolutionary changes that allow it to quickly adapt to changes in the environment. Ordile is Pokémon number 160 in the National Pokédex. Although it has a large body, it can move quickly on the ground using its powerful hind legs. Grainer is Pokémon number 262 in the National Pokédex. They faithfully follow their leader's orders and with their outstanding teamwork, they never let their prey escape. Madatsubomi is Pokémon number 69 in the National Pokédex. They stretch their legs deep into the ground to replenish their fluids. If they are attacked at this time, they will have no way to escape. Heracross is Pokémon number 214 in the National Pokédex. Its strong legs and sharp claws generate enough power to throw opponents far away. Lizardon is the number 6 Pokémon in the National Pokédex. It can fly up to 1,400 meters above the ground using its wings and spits out high-temperature flames. Pichu is Pokémon number 172 in the National Pokédex. He's still not very good at storing electricity. When he's surprised or laughs, he quickly loses it. Baywalu is Pokémon number 832 in the National Pokédex. The carpet, woven with bouncy wool, is like a trampoline, and when you step on it, you bounce up and down. Juniper is Pokémon number 724 in the National Pokédex. Generally cautious and cool, but when caught off guard, he falls into a panic. Gallop is Pokémon number 78 in the National Pokédex. Its running speed is 240 km per hour. The flames in its mane burn intensely, and it sprints like an arrow. Ariados is Pokémon number 168 in the National Pokédex. They do not build nests in a fixed location, but roam around in search of food after dark. Dogaz is Pokémon number 109 in the National Pokédex. The poisonous gas inside the body is slightly lighter than air, so it's always floating a little. Palkia is Pokémon number 484 in the National Pokédex. It is said to live in the gap between parallel spaces, a Pokémon that appears in mythology. Weruvial is Pokémon number 553 in the National Pokédex. They have special eyes that allow them to spot small prey up to 50 kilometers away, even in sandstorms. Silvally is Pokémon number 773 in the National Pokédex. It has the ability to change its type depending on the memory it is equipped with. Chikorita is Pokémon number 152 in the National Pokédex. The leaves on its head give off a faint sweet fragrance. It is quiet and loves to bask in the sun. Darkrai is Pokémon number 491 in the National Pokédex. It has the ability to put people into a deep sleep and make them dream. It is active on nights of the new moon. Kolink is Pokémon number 403 in the National Pokédex. When it senses danger, the fur on its entire body glows. It then flees while its prey is blinded. Mega Mahoxie is Pokémon number 655 in the National Pokédex. He manipulates flaming branches to dazzle his opponents, then hits them with a large fireball, burning them to ashes. Sleeper is Pokémon number 96 in the National Pokédex. It puts its prey to sleep and eats the dreams it is watching. Apparently, bad dreams are sour, so it doesn't like to eat them. Okorozaru is Pokémon number 57 in the National Pokédex. He's always furious and will chase you no matter where you run. Gyarados is Pokémon number 130 in the National Pokédex. There are records in ancient documents that say that villages where conflicts occurred were burned to the ground. Cocodora is Pokémon number 304 in the National Pokédex. When it evolves, the steel armor that covers its body falls off and new armor is created. Mumarji is Pokémon number 429 in the National Pokédex. It emits a spell-like cry that causes headaches and hallucinations to those who learn it. Windy is Pokémon number 59 in the National Pokédex. Its majestic appearance has captivated people's hearts since ancient times. Cocoon is the number 14 Pokémon in the National Pokédex. Although they are barely able to move on their own, they will apparently extend their needles and inflict poison if they are in danger. Porygon is Pokémon number 137 in the National Pokédex. His body is made of programs, and he has the ability to move freely through cyberspace. Riolu is Pokémon number 447 in the National Pokédex. They communicate with each other by emitting vibrations that change shape depending on their emotions. Gachagoras is Pokémon number 697 in the National Pokédex. With jaws that could tear thick iron plates apart like paper, they were invincible in the ancient world. Yukumenoko is Pokémon number 478 in the National Pokédex. It spits out cold air at -50 degrees, freezing its opponents. The part that looks like its torso is actually hollow. Gleon is Pokémon number 472 in the National Pokédex. It flies silently through the air and, upon approaching its prey, instantly stabs it in a vital spot. Entei is Pokémon number 244 in the National Pokédex. A Pokémon that roams the earth and is said to be born whenever a new volcano is formed. Pamo is Pokémon number 921 in the National Pokédex. The electrical pouches in their cheeks are underdeveloped. They can only generate electricity by rubbing them vigorously with the pads of their front legs. Wonderful is Pokémon number 914 in the National Pokédex. They captivate the audience with their exotic dance, waving and slashing feathers made of water. Hour is Pokémon number 250 in the National Pokédex. Its wings, which shine in 7 colors depending on the angle of the light, are said to bring happiness. It is said to live at the base of the rainbow. Electabuzz is Pokémon number 466 in the National Pokédex. It presses the tip of its tail against the enemy and sends a high voltage current through it. Gabarius is Pokémon number 445 in the National Pokédex. The 2 protrusions on its head act as sensors, allowing it to sense prey far away. Giratina is Pokémon number 487 in the National Pokédex. They live in a broken world that is said to exist on the other side of this world, where common sense does not apply. Arceus is Pokémon number 493 in the National Pokédex. It is said in mythology to be the first Pokémon to be born before the universe existed.